Okay, good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for joining for our Shiur, which is just one day prior to Tisha B'Av. And I really find it very meaningful to see you and to learn together, and I'm really appreciative that you're able to take some time, carve out time in your schedule so that we can learn together. It's just such a difficult time of physical distance where things are just totally upended and out of whack. And I find that the learning for me, hopefully for you too, is a force of stability, is a force of meaning, is something that anchors us, and also, of course, keeps us connected. So tonight I wanted to talk about, and thanks for joining us, and I hope that all of you are well. I wanted to talk about the paradox of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. And there's a number of fast days over the course of the year. And one that seems to parallel Tisha B'Av in the sense that it's a 25-hour fast is Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur is not a sad day. Yom Kippur is a holy day. It's a day of fasting to be like angels for 25 hours, but it's not a sad day. Tisha B'Av, on the other hand, is a day of Avelut. It's a day of mourning. Many of the practices that we observe on Tisha B'Av are similar to the practices that are observed by a person who's sitting Shiva, right? So, for example, a person sitting Shiva for a loss of a loved one doesn't wear leather shoes, and so too on Tisha B'Av, we don't wear leather shoes. A person who's sitting Shiva for the loss of a loved one sits on a low chair, and so too we on Tisha B'Av, we sit on a low chair at least until Chatzot, until the middle of the day. And so Tisha B'Av is, according to all accounts, is a very sad day for a few reasons. Okay, firstly, we mourn the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. And tomorrow night, we're not going to be able to get together in person, so we're going to be doing Eicha by Zoom, and we're going to be davening minyanim, but we'll be doing Eicha by Zoom and keynote by Zoom. But whether it's by Zoom, online, Shamayim, Va'aretz, it's a sad day for a few reasons. Firstly, because we're mourning the destruction of the first and second Beis HaMikdash. Secondly, we're mourning and we're saddened by the many other tragedies over history that occurred on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th day of Av. And number three, we're mourning because for those tragedies that occurred even not on Tisha B'Av. Let me just pause for a second, commercial break. Gabi, can you hear me? Gabi? Gabi?
Yes, now I hear you.
Can you? Okay, great. All right, back to action. Quick commercial break. We don't like commercials, so hopefully we won't have too many commercials on this year. But Gabi, well done. Thanks for giving me to make me the host. I think you became host from the Minyan, from Mariv. It's okay. All is good. All right. Let's get right down to what I believe is the paradox of Tisha B'Av. And what I was saying was that Tisha B'Av is a sad day because we're mourning the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. We also mourn and are saddened by all the other tragedies that occurred on the 9th day of Av. And third, we crunch into Tisha B'Av other tragedies like the book burnings in Paris, like the Crusades in the 11th century in the German Rhineland that devastated the three German Jewish communities of Aspire, Vermeisen, Magensa. These events did not even occur on Tisha B'Av. And yet we mourn for these tragedies, even those tragedies that did not occur on Tisha B'Av but are somehow connected to the exile. We sort of condense into and fold into the sadness of Tisha B'Av. Rav Soloveitchik has a very a beautiful idea I'll just share with one line where he says that Chazal felt that if we would have a separate day of mourning for every single pogrom and persecution, our year would be filled with the days of sadness, and it would be very hard for us to be happy, for us to be productive. The Mishnah in Tanis says, Mishenichnas Av, mima'atin b'simcha. When the month of Av rolls around, we minimize our simcha. And the Gemara says, this is as opposed to Adar, Mishenichnas Adar, marbin b'simcha. We increase our simcha in the month of Adar. this teaches us a very powerful idea, everyone, which is that all year long, we have to be happy. All year long, we have to smile and be happy with our blessings, even during difficult times such as these. It's just that in Adar, we increase, and in the month of Av, in this month, we decrease. Let me get into what I believe is the paradox of Tisha B'Av. The paradox is as follows, and it's going to take a little bit of time to develop, but I want to learn it and develop it together with you. The one halacha with regards to Tisha B'Av is that we don't wear talit and tefillin in the morning. So the man who wears talit and tefillin waits until the afternoon to put on the talit and tefillin. This halacha is found in the Shulchan Aruch, and you have it on the screen in source number 1. It says, "Noagim shelo lahaniach tefillin, b'tisha b'av shachris v'lo talis." The men do not put on tefillin and don't put on a talis in the morning. Rather, uva mincha, rather at mincha time. So that's when uva mincha menichim tzitzis v'tefillin u'mavarcham aleh. All right. What's the reason why we don't wear talis and tefillin in the morning? So the Mishnah Berurah gives the explanation here. He says, Al pi ha-medrash, based on the medrash that says betza imraso, right under that green font there. Al pi ha-medrash betza imraso, that he baza purpure delay, that he pierced the curtain of the Beis Hamikdash. And so the talis kind of is symbolic of the curtain, so we don't wear the talis in the morning. Hishlich mishamayim eres teferes Yisrael. This is a pasuk in Eicha as well, and the pasuk in Eicha says that that from heaven to earth was thrown down the glory of Israel. Zu tefillin. Tefillin is considered the glory of Israel. It's kind of like an ornament that we wear, and the ornament of Israel, the glory of Israel on Tisha B'Av with the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash was thrown from the heaven to earth. All right, so that's just one halacha that we all know. That we wait until the afternoon to wear the talis and tefillin. In the morning, a man is supposed to wear his talis katan underneath his clothing, but he doesn't make a bracha on it, and he waits until the afternoon to make a bracha on the talit. Another halacha is with regards to the performance of malacha on Tisha B'Av. We know that you're not allowed to do creative activity on Shabbos or Yom Tif. But then you have days on the calendar that are special days where you are allowed to do malacha. You are allowed to turn on a light. You are allowed to drive a car, like Hanukkah and Purim. Where does Tisha B'Av fall in this rubric? So the Ramah says, "V'lo nahagu iser malacha," that the prohibition of malacha is kiyim ad chatzos. In source number 3, "V'lo nahagu iser malacha kiyim ad chatzos," that we have a minhag. There's a custom to refrain from doing creative activity, from doing work, from building, from cooking, from doing activities in that nature until midday. There's a minhag that if it involves a malacha that takes quite a bit of time, so then we only do that after midday, which is around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, halachic midday. But let's say something that doesn't take amount of time, like lighting a candle or tying a knot. So then the custom is that it's permitted to do that at night of Tisha B'Av, and even in the morning of Tisha B'Av, and in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. All right? So the Ramah quotes 2 different customs. One custom is to try to refrain from all types of creative activity, all types of malacha until midday. And then he makes a separate, then he says, but the common minhag is that if it's a malacha that involves quite a bit of time, then we refrain until midday. And after chatzot, then you're allowed to do malacha that takes some period of time to do. Like you want to do some, like a little bit of, building, or you want to do some malacha that takes a bit of time, like cooking. I don't know what it is. You could do it in the afternoon. You're not allowed to eat, but you're allowed to do a malacha in the afternoon. That takes time. But something that doesn't take time, then you're allowed to do that over the course of Tisha B'Av. So again, my friends, we have a distinction between before Chatzot and after Chatzot. It's interesting that on Tisha B'Av, there's a transition that occurs at midday. The restrictions that apply to Tisha B'Av night and Tisha B'Av morning, some of those restrictions are relaxed in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av on Thursday afternoon. Another halacha is that we, in source number 4, is Leil Tisha B'Av v'yomo. So by Gimel there, right? So Leil Tisha B'Av v'yomo, at night and during the day, Yoshvin b'beis haknesses la'aretz, we sit on the floor, ad tfilas hamincha, until the time of mincha. In other words, after midday, that's the time of davening mincha. So then we're allowed to sit on a regular chair after mincha in the afternoon. Now, why is this interesting? So look, why are the restrictions relaxed in the afternoon? Now, you might say that we apply the principle of mixas hayom kekulo, that, right, there's a principle when it comes to the laws of mourning, that when you observe part of the day, that's tantamount to observing the whole day. I say this, a little bit like with waiting 6 hours, right? Some people wait 5 hours and a little bit into the 6th hour. All right, so I'm not going to get into the weeds on that custom of waiting 6 hours between meat and milk, but right, some people wait 5 hours and a little bit into the 6th hour. So that's viewed as if that little bit is tantamount to the whole hour. Some people just wait a little bit into the 1st hour. So that's problematic. But we have a principle in some areas of law where doing a little bit is tantamount to the whole thing. And so with Shiva, on the 7th day of Shiva, so we say as long as you observe a little bit of the day, so you no longer have to observe the remainder of the day of Shiva. So perhaps that's the explanation when it comes to Tisha B'Av. Once you observe the night and you observe the morning, all right, so that's tantamount to the complete day. The problem is that many of you are aware that when it comes to meat and milk, not meat and milk, when it comes to meat and wine, right? So there's a custom, as you know, a very serious custom to refrain from eating meat and drinking wine in the 9 days, and I think we learned about this last week. That custom of the 9 days goes until what time? When does it go until?
So the next day after Tisha B'Av in the morning.
Very good. Very good. All right, so Alan is absolutely correct. Take a look at source number 5. B'Tisha B'Av, Le'et Erev, on Tisha B'Av, okay. Trying to get it green for you guys. There you go. Oop. Okay, in the green there. B'Tisha B'Av le'et erev, hitzitu eish behechal. On Tisha B'Av, in the afternoon, heading towards evening, historically speaking, hitzitu eish behechal. We know that the walls of Jerusalem were breached on the 17th of Tammuz, just like the luchot were broken on the 17th of Tammuz, and then the siege continued, and the enemies went further towards the Beis Hamikdash, and then it was really on the afternoon, and I think that the Shulchan Aruch is here talking about the second Beis Hamikdash. We know that Titus, right, the evil Titus, came into the Holy of Holies, and he took a prostitute with him, and he committed a terrible sin with the prostitute on the Sefer Torah, says the Gemara. He took his sword and he pierced the curtain of the Holy of Holies, and he saw blood. He saw blood coming out. And that blood was presumably from the sprinkling of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. But Titus thought that it was because he pierced the curtain with his sword that the blood was caused. And the Gemara says, Kisaver shaharages atzmo. He thought that he killed Hashem. The Gemara doesn't even want to put it into print that he thought that he killed God, so it uses a euphemism for God. Instead of saying that he thought that he killed God, it says that he thought that he killed himself. But what the Gemara means to tell us is that Titus, the general of the Romans in the year 70, thought that he had killed Hashem because he pierced the Holy of Holies curtain and he saw blood on it. And then what Titus did was he took the temple vessels and he put them into a sack. He actually put them into the curtain. He made the curtain like a sack, says the Gemara. He made the curtain of the Holy of Holies, the paroches, into a sack. He took the menorah and he took the kior and he took the different utensils of the Beis Hamikdash and he put it into the paroches and he carried it and he transported it back with him to Rome, says the Gemara. Now, this account is confirmed by the Arch of Titus. That's if for all of you who have traveled to Rome over the course of any time in your life. So I'm not sure if you can get to it today, but there's an Arch of Titus, right? The famous, legendary Arch of Titus, infamous Arch of Titus, that's in the Roman Forum, which is in the center of Rome. And on the Arch of Titus is depicted the different vessels of the Beis Hamikdash, including the menorah, the iconic image of the menorah on the Arch of Titus, being carried away by the Jewish captives. So Titus was celebrating, even though, of course, according to the Jews and according to Chazal, Titus was a manuvul, a shkutz, the worst arch enemy of the Jewish people. According to the Romans, Titus is a hero. And the triumph over the Jews was another sign of the ascendancy of the Roman Empire. By the way, there was a custom, maybe still is a custom, there's a custom among the Jews of Rome not to walk under the Arch of Titus. Have you heard of that custom? The reason is because the church for many years required the Jews to walk under the arch to demonstrate their submission to Christianity. And so for that reason, the Jews have a custom, the Jewish community of Rome, and I think of surrounding areas, they had this custom that to avoid it at all costs, to try not to walk under the Arch of Titus, because that was the symbol of submission to the church that the Christians forced the Jews to do over the course of a period of time. So the Shulchan Aruch here in source number 5, that was just a little bit of history, but the Shulchan Aruch tells us something interesting. Take a look at source number 5. You there? You guys with me? Let's go. Let's get into it. Come on. Let's get into it. Source number 5. B'Tisha B'Av la'eit erev hitzitu eish beheichal. Titus ignited the sanctuary on fire. Right? He pierced the parochet. He took the prostitute with the Sefer Torah. He he ignited the temple in flames. And when did he do that? He did that on the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. On the afternoon, towards the second half of Tisha B'Av. V'nisraf ashkia rachama b'yom asiri. And it burned until sunset of the 10th day. And this is the explanation for what Alan said before. What Alan Lowy said before is that we refrain from meat and wine until Chatzot of the 10th of Av. A lot of the customs of the 9 days, we extend beyond Tisha B'Av, beyond the 9th day of Av, until the 10th day of Av. This is not just because the rabbis want to make our life difficult. This is not just because we always try to find something else to be stringent about. This is not just because we want to antagonize ourselves. No. The Shulchan Aruch says in the Nekach Mina Kosher, Shelo le'echol basar, v'shelo l'shtot yayin b'leil asiri v'yom asiri. V'yesh machmirin ad chatzot hayom v'lo yoter. But why do we wait? Why are the restrictions like laundry? Wait, right? Laundry is forbidden when?
Laundry.
9 days.
No, laundering money is forbidden all year But that's right. Laundering of clothing is forbidden only in the 9 days. But what we observe, the custom that we observe, is that you don't do laundry until the 10th day at Chatzot. Meat and wine, right? We refrain from meat and wine in the 9 days. So we don't eat meat and wine until Chatzot, until midday of the 10th. You don't get a haircut, right? We don't get a haircut until midday of the 10th. Why? Well, I just explained it to you. The Shulchan Aruch says because the temple was ignited by Titus in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. The burning of the temple continued through the remainder of Tisha B'Av, through the night following Tisha B'Av, and through the following day of the 10th of the month of Av. And for this reason, that's why we refrain at least half of the day from a number of the things. We extend the restrictions of the 9 days until the 10th day of Av. We don't extend the Tisha B'Av restrictions, right? You're allowed to eat, you're allowed to drink. You don't, right? You're not fasting anymore. It's not Tisha B'Av anymore, but you have some of those restrictions. So now I want to open it up to the floor. What's the question, therefore, with regards to Tisha B'Av? What's the paradox of the afternoon of Tisha B'Av? Let me see if I could unmute everyone. Everyone's unmuted, or at least I try to do that. What's the paradox?
The paradox is, why do you not put on talis and tefillin until after Chatzos on Tisha B'Av?
Well, that's why.
That's
So,
yeah.
okay,
Why
good,
do you
good.
do that? And you don't eat milk and you don't meat and wine.
Well, no. Let's just, for clarity, on Tisha B'Av afternoon, we don't eat meat or wine because we're not eating anything.
Right.
We don't put on tefillin in the morning. We put on tefillin in the afternoon. Women don't put on tefillin the whole day of Tisha B'Av. But men wait until the afternoon to put on tefillin.
Okay, so
By the
if
way,
you're able to,
parenthetically, I'll just tell you that another halacha of Tisha B'Av is that you're not supposed to learn Torah on Tisha B'Av. You're only allowed to learn things like the laws of Tisha B'Av, the laws of mourning, the kinos, the eicha. You're allowed to learn the stories of the destruction in Talmud, but there's a general prohibition of learning Torah on Tisha B'Av because learning Torah makes us happy. All of you are happy, whether you realize it or not. You're happy now because you're learning.
okay.
And because we're not happy on Tisha B'Av, and Torah study brings us happiness and meaning into our lives, so we don't learn Torah on Tisha B'Av.
If you follow your logic,
One thing that I joke is that I like joking, which is that some people are stringent. They don't learn Torah all year long because they're nervous. They don't want to violate the halachos of Tisha B'Av.
Great.
Sam, go ahead.
Rabbi, if you lessen the restrictions in terms of talis and tefillah in the afternoon because it's later in the day, then if it's a lessening time, it's almost over, then you shouldn't extend it to the next day.
Very good. Okay, you're getting closer. So Alan said, why do we extend the restriction of meat and wine until the 10th? And Sam, you're now building on that, which is that we're easing the restrictions in the afternoon by allowing us to wear tefillin, by allowing certain malachos, right? You're allowed to do any malacha, creative activity in the afternoon, as long as it's not contradictory to the spirit of the day. You're allowed to do malacha in the afternoon. We say the tefillah of Nachem, which is the tefillah of consolation and comfort in the afternoon. We sit on a regular chair, right? You're allowed to sit on a regular chair, but you look so comfortable there. We sit on a regular chair in the afternoon. So what Sam, I think you're getting at is make a choice. What direction are you going in?
That's right.
Are you going north or south?
Mhm.
Are you getting more stringent or are you getting more lenient? Right?
Well,
So the restrictions of Tisha B'Av, there's an easing of the restrictions in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, right? The restrictions are going down. It's getting a little more relaxed. It's getting a little more, we're trying to get back to normalcy. But then suddenly it extends into the 10th. But I want to sharpen it. What's the paradox? I haven't said it yet. What's the paradox?
well,
Why would the restrictions become less at the very time when the
Yeah.
Temple
Kodesh
being
is
dreaded.
being violated?
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. So thank you, Alan, Sam, for bringing us and getting us there. And then Abby, you just hit the nail on the head. And Martin shook his head, so that he seconds your answer. He was shaking his head because he was looking at the baseball game, and I guess there might have been a home run, so he was shaking his head. No, I'm just kidding.
Close.
But Martin's pretty confident that anything Abby says is on the money. So, but joking aside, Abby, that's exactly right.
Okay.
We just said the afternoon. Abby's right. We just said that the afternoon was precisely the time where the temple went up in flames. The afternoon was the time where the Aron, as Abby said, was violated. It says that Titus came into the Beis Hamikdash and ignited it in flames when? On the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. And for that reason, right, it went up in flames and it extended into the 10th, and that's why we extend the restrictions until the 10th of Av. But I don't really care about the restrictions on the 10th of Av right now. What I care for our discussion is that the whole basis for the extension of the restrictions into the 10th is because the Beis Hamikdash went up in flames, right, Miriam? Am I right? Jerry, it went up in flames in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. And if historically speaking, it went up in flames and the temple was violated in the most egregious way in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, why should that be the time? Why should that be the time that we have the easing of restrictions? That's the paradox. If anything, that's the conundrum. If anything, the restrictions should become more serious and stringent in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. Because that's when the Beis Hamikdash went up in flames. And if the Beis Hamikdash went up in flames in the afternoon, so that's when we should take on more restrictions. There should be more stringencies. Why at the very time of the igniting of the Beis Hamikdash in flames, when things were really the worst for the Beis Hamikdash, that's when we have the easing of restrictions. We're suddenly allowed to sit on a regular chair. The men put on talis and tefillin. We're suddenly allowed to do all the different malachos. That's the paradox. That's the conundrum.
Because
Let me get your thoughts. And now I excited you guys, and now you want to share your thoughts.
You want to say something? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Ayala and then Ron.
Okay.
Is it because theoretically, once the Bet Mikdash was destroyed, as Rabbi Akiva was laughing, we knew that there was going to be a beginning towards the positive again? And that's why it's easing up on restrictions?
Very, very nice, Ayala.
Also, don't we have this principle that he took out his anger on the building instead of destroying the people?
Well, that's a whole nother story.
No, but I mean, that's why maybe there's some joy in that concept that the people are not going to be completely destroyed.
Meaning that there was a concern. You think that there was a concern at that point that look, it's looked like things were going really, really south for the Jewish people. God presumably had some wrath that needed to be taken out in some kind of way. And what Sam is suggesting is that there was a deep concern that the whole project of the Jewish people would, God forbid, be gone, that the Jewish people would be destroyed. And so, Sam, that's very, very interesting. So Ayala is suggesting a different idea. We'll come back to that in a second. But Sam, what you're suggesting is that God took out his wrath on the building, but he did not take out his wrath completely on destroying the people. There was many losses,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a very tough time for people, but they survived. Yeah, Ron, go ahead, Ron.
So basically, even the Shulchan Aruch says nohagim, which is minhag. It's a custom. For example, the Sephardic do wear tefillin and talit in the morning. They do work, even though they add Adam oseh melacha b'tisha b'av lo yireh tov. You will not say a good day, but they don't basically forbid it. And about being happy, you have to be happy all year. So the Lubavitcher rabbi says you can study Torah, but if you finish a Masechta together with your student, then that's a kind of happiness. So you can do that to be happy.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Sandy. It's Sandy.
Sandy, woo.
How are you, Rabbi? I'll even turn on my video for a second here.
There we go.
There we
Now
go.
we're cooking.
Okay.
Now we're
Oh, Sandy.
So one thought, just to Ayala's, to give support to that thought, is that when we say Nachem on Tisha B'Av, in the afternoon, at the end of that Nachem, we say, For you, Hashem, with fire you consumed her, you consumed Yerushalayim, and with fire you will rebuild her. So we have the fire, we have Nachem, and then Zechariah, the very last line, learns out that that Hashem says that I will be for her, and as a wall of fire all around her, and I will be within her in her glory. Going from sadness to and with fire to back to rebuilding and coming closer to Simcha.
phenomenal idea, Sandy, in terms of
Really?
that very thing, which was the vehicle of destruction, which was the what's that called? The kind of like the accelerant. That's the word I'm using for, right? That exact item, the
catalyst,
accelerant of the destruction.
Catalyst.
That's going to be the flip. That's going to be the way the base of Mikdash is rebuilt. Yeah. Who else?
Alan here. I'd like to express a contrarian point of view. The concept of not working on the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, of not working during the day of Tisha B'Av, and not putting on talis and tefillin in Tisha B'Av, but yet allowing us to put on talis and tefillin in the afternoon and working in the afternoon is not because of Avelis, it's exactly the other way around. We don't put on talis and tefillin and we don't work on Shabbos and Yontif because it's a chag, it's a simcha. And only on the days which are a week, a work day, then we put on talis and tefillin and then we do work. And the custom, not the custom, but there's a medrash someplace that says that we believe that the Mashiach will come on the morning of Tisha B'Av. So that's going to be a Yontif. And the reason why we don't put on talis and tefillin and we don't work on the morning of Tisha B'Av is because maybe it's a Yontif we just haven't heard yet. And by the afternoon, we know the Mashiach isn't coming. So then we can already go into weekday mode and work and put on talis and tefillin.
Cool, huh?
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so that was a fascinating idea, Alan, and I want to give that some more thought. I had not heard that explanation before, and your idea and all the ideas that were shared were really beautiful ideas. But that's a very interesting idea, and I'd like to look into that more. If you have sources for that already in the afternoon. So we kind of think that Mashiach's not going to come. I wonder if that's true. That already in the afternoon we kind of like are coming to the realization that it's going to be yet another Tisha B'Av, that Mashiach's not going to be here, and then in the morning we don't wear tefillin because it's a chag. Now look, we do call Tisha B'Av a moed, right? Tisha B'Av is called a moed, which is why there's no tachnun, and that moed is because it's a sad day, but it's going to be flipped to a holiday. But in terms of that distinction between the morning and the afternoon, Alan, that's very interesting. So thanks for that idea. So I think all the ideas, putting them together, is the idea that as bad as the destruction was, there's a silver lining of hope. And the way Ayala put it was that Rabbi Akiva, when he saw the foxes running around in the Holy of Holies right after the destruction, he laughed. And the rabbi said, that's crazy. Why are you laughing? When there's animals trampling and animals running through the temple grounds and there's no longer a sacrificial service, why are you laughing? And Rabbi Akiva said that I'm laughing because if this prophecy was fulfilled, that the base of Mikdash is going to be destroyed, then the prophecy of of Zechariah and the other prophets, that there's going to be a time that we're going to come back and the men and women and young and old are going to play once again in the streets of Jerusalem. I have confidence now that those prophecies are also going to be fulfilled. So within the destruction, there's a silver lining of hope that other prophecies will be realized and our prayers will be answered and our dreams will be fulfilled. But I wanted to get into, somebody else mentioned another point, and I remember who it is, but I don't want to give it away yet. I want to highlight a different related idea. But Sandy, your idea also, in terms of that the fire that was used to destroy, that's going to be used to rebuild. And we believe that. And that's a very, very hopeful thought for us to keep in mind during this challenging time. We'll come back to it. Okay, and that the fire that was used to destroy is going to be used to rebuild, and that there's a silver lining. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. And Mashiach, I was just trying to remember what and Mashiach, right? That Mashiach is going to be born on Tisha B'Av, right? On this sad day, that's when Mashiach is going to be born. But I wanted to highlight a different idea, which is the main theme of this year. So let me share the screen with you again. Okay. So this is Rashi. This is Rashi in the Sechta Kedushin Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, and there's Yerushalmi that essentially says this. It says Mizmor La'asaf. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to see if I could. There we go. By the green there. Mizmor La'asaf, there's a song of Asaf. Elokim Boy Goim Benachlosecha. God, nations of the world have come into your inheritance. So Rashi quotes this passage in the Yerushalmi. Kina La'asaf mi bayalei. If this passage is talking, if this parak of Tehillim is talking about the trampling of the Beis HaMikdash, he's talking about nations of the world coming into his inheritance. Bo Goyim Benachlosecha. Why is it started? Why is it introduced with the words Mizmor La'asaf? It should have been introduced with the words Kina La'asaf. It's a lamentation of Asaf, right? Kina La'asaf mi bayalei. Vidarish, and so the Gemara says, Rashi's quoting it, Kach she'amar Asaf Shira. Why did Asaf sing a song? Hold on, I'm trying to get this highlighting. I always have trouble with this stuff, with the highlighting. I don't know why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. She'amar Asaf Shira. Why did Asaf sing a song? If it's talking about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, if the Beis HaMikdash is going up in flames, why is that a source of, why is that a time to sing? Why is that a time for consolation? So Asaf says, Al Shekila HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chamaso, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu took out his wrath, as Sam Smith said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took out his wrath, Be'etzim v'avonim shebebeso. God took out his wrath on the wood and stones of the Beis HaMikdash, umitoch kach hoter pleita b'Yisrael, and by doing that, he saved the Jewish people. And therefore, that's why even though this psalm is talking about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, that's why it's a song. In other words, applying strict justice would have mandated that the Jewish people be the sole destination of God's wrath. The people were the ones who had sinned. However, on the afternoon of the 9th, at the moment that the Beis HaMikdash began burning, it became clear that God, in an act of mercy, would direct his wrath towards his house and holy city, but that he would spare his people. The holy sanctuary would be destroyed, but the Jewish people would be allowed to survive and build towards a future. And so let me take us off the screen share and so that's, my friends, what that answers the paradox. That solves the riddle. That explains the conundrum, right? The restrictions of Tisha B'Av are relaxed in the second half of the day. We mourn because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. but we begin to be comforted in the afternoon. And we're ultimately consoled with the words Nachmu, Nachmu Ami in the afternoon. Why? Because it was in the afternoon that the Beis Hamikdash went up in flames, that it became clear that what? That the Beis Hamikdash would be destroyed, but the Jewish people would endure. That the Jewish people would be exiled, but that the Mesorah would continue to be transmitted from generation to generation. And that's why in the afternoon, so I liked Ayala's idea, which is, right, that in the destruction, if we think broad-mindedly and optimistically, like Rabbi Akiva, within the destruction, that confirms that there's a prophecy of hope as well. And this fits in, what I'm suggesting also fits in with what Sandy was suggesting, right? Within the destruction, we find the ability to see the possibilities of rebuilding. But what I'm suggesting in my thesis, based on the Rashi, based on the Gemara, is that the reason why the restrictions were relaxed in the afternoon is because the comfort is that we've survived. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and there's a lot to mourn, but we have all of this here. We're all here. We're all building, we all have strong, kosher Jewish homes. And we're all here at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night when it's so difficult to learn together because we care about Tisha B'Av. We care about halacha. We care about the Jewish future. And so there's a lot to be said about on Tisha B'Av, certainly, and we mourn the entirety of Tisha B'Av. But in the afternoon, that's where we begin to highlight the silver lining. The silver lining of Tisha B'Av is highlighted in the afternoon when the Beis Hamikdash goes up in flames. That confirms, whoa, this is bad, this is hard, but the Jewish people are going to survive, and there's a future for Mesorah and for Am Yisrael, and we still have that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we are one day going to come back to Eretz Yisrael, and one day, of course, and we're going to continue having that relationship. We're going to build a future even in the exile until we get back to Eretz Yisrael. And so in the afternoon, the silver lining is that the Jewish people will survive, and that's why the restrictions of Tisha B'Av are relaxed. Some of them are relaxed in the afternoon.
Rabbi, why not the other ones, like the not getting a haircut or eating meat and drinking wine until the next day? Why aren't those relaxed?
Well, because usually when it comes to the bona fide restrictions of Tisha B'Av, like not eating and drinking, not learning Torah, so then those apply the whole day. For some of the customs, there's a whole machlokas about tefillin. For some of the customs, those are the things that we relax in the afternoon. To answer your question in terms of why we make the distinction, why some apply the whole day, why some only apply until chatzot, I think it depends whether it's ikra din or whether it's a minhag. I want to show you just quickly or I'll just read it to you, that the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Gra that at mincha time, that's when we start relaxing the restrictions. He says because God took out his wrath upon the wood and stones, and he quotes the Gra. What's the connection, my friends, between the month of Av and the month of Adar? The Gemara makes a connection between the two because it says,
Marbim b'simcha v'ma'atim b'simcha.
Right.
Who's that?
Well, right, but is there a deeper connection? So I once learned,
Be happy.
and I actually heard this from Rabbi Friedman of New York, that both Av and Adar both reflect the notion of hifuch, of flipping. In the month of Adar, right? HaChodesh asher nehafach lahem meyagon l'simcha. Right, we all know the theme of Purim, which is that, right? It was the day, but also the month. HaChodesh asher nehafach lahem meyagon l'simcha. The month of Adar was transformed, was flipped from a month of despair to a month of celebration. Haman was up, Mordechai was down. Haman ended up being hanged and Mordechai was lifted up. With regard to the month of Av as well, the Pasuk in Zechariah says, Ko amar Hashem, Tzom ha'revi, v'tzom ha'chamishi, v'tzom ha'shvi, v'tzom ha'asiri. These fast days of the 4th, of the 5th, of the 7th, of the 10th. What are those fast days? 4th is the 4th month, counting from Nisan. The 4th month, right? Nisan, Iyar,
Shivasa B'Tammuz.
Tammuz.
So the Tzom ha'revi, the fast of the 4th, is the fast of the Shivasa B'Tammuz. And the fast of the 5th, Tzom ha'chamishi, is Tisha B'Av. The Tzom ha'shavi, the fast of the 7th is
Tzom Gedalia.
Tzom Gedalia. Very good. I think that's Dick there. Thank you, Dick, for carrying us forward. And Tzom ha'asiri, and the fast of the 10th is what?
No. It's Asar B'Teves.
Bingo! Asar B'Teves. There we go. Asar B'Teves. And Zechariah says those fast days, which are very sad days on the calendar, those fast days which highlight the cycle of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, Asar B'Teves, was the beginning of the siege. Shivasa B'Tammuz was when the walls of Yerushalayim were broken. Tisha B'Av is the destruction. Tzom Gedalia was when Gedalia ben Achikam, the Babylonian appointed Jewish governor of Judea, was assassinated after the destruction, and that was like the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, no pun intended, to the first Commonwealth and the first Beis Hamikdash. So those 4 days, the prophet Zechariah says, Ko amar Hashem, Tzom ha'revi, Tzom ha'chamishi, Tzom ha'shvi, Tzom ha'asiri, Yeh lebeis Yehuda liyemei sason v'simcha. Those days, fast days, are gonna become and be transformed into holidays. Mm-hmm. Just like the month of Adar was transformed, we have full belief that the month of Av and these other fast days are going to be transformed. We hope this year as well, Tisha B'Av, is a day where we're redeemed, where the world is redeemed, where we have the end of this pandemic, where somehow there's a miracle that comes forth, that things get turned around on Tisha B'Av. The Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Alan, I love your idea, but I'm gonna let's be positive, let's be optimistic. I don't want to say positive. Let's be optimistic that even in the afternoon Mashiach could come. But who knows? Maybe he'll come in the morning, maybe he'll come at night. But the tradition has it that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. And
Rabbi, you didn't talk about Corona and Tisha B'Av. In Israel, you're allowed to wash your hands because the minhag is to only put the tip of your fingers in the water. In Israel, you can wash your hands as many times as you want to. It's not luxury because of Corona.
Not just in Israel. Not just in Israel. I think you're allowed to wash your hands wherever you are when necessary. This is B'Koach Nefesh, and so I agree that you're allowed to wash your hands. In normal cases that you're washing your hands for safety, you're allowed to wash your hands on Tisha B'Av for safety. But to me, this is my ending message to takeaway message, not the only one, but there's a paradox of Tisha B'Av. But the sadness really presents to us the silver lining, which is that look at the Jewish people today. We're a thriving, vibrant people that has carried the Masorah over the generations. Look at the Jewish people today who have come back finally after 2 millennia to come back to the state of Israel with the revival of the Hebrew language, with Tzahal, with a government, with tremendous strength. And we're a lot of times we focus on the negative, but we have to focus on the positive, on the good, on the optimistic, on what we've been able to accomplish. That's the nechama. That's the consolation that we have on the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. It's still Tisha B'Av, but that's the consolation that we have in the afternoon, that we're still here observing this, and we're coming back. And that paradox, which is solved in that way, reflects this idea that the Jewish people, over the course of history, that we believe that things can turn around for us. Things have begun to turn around in terms of us coming back to Israel. And we hope and pray that things will turn around for us in this time. That our troubles, our the challenges, the health crisis, that the health crisis will end and things will turn around, and we'll once again get back to some semblance of normalcy. And so let's hope that the fire that was used to destroy, that's used to rebuild, and that somehow we'll be able to leverage this period of time, which is a period of such a challenge. We'll be able to leverage this period of time. It'll start catapulting us in a different direction, in the right direction, to just get stronger, to a period of renewal and revival of the Jewish people, Israel, and the entire world.
Amen.
Rabbi, you are a very lucky man. Do you know why?
Koyach.
Because this is Zoom and you've got a captive audience in here.
I don't know what I'm saying, but
Rabbi,
Thank you.
I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, but easy, fast, everyone. Yes, Sam, go ahead.
implying anything, but I do want you to know that I was born within a couple days of Tisha B'Av.
Okay, so Sam, you're saying you might be Mashiach. Okay.
The elder was
He's not a Cohen. He can't.
Inshallah.
Rabbi, in jesting,